Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Mastering Rod Building Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Falconer, and I'm very excited today because I did something yesterday, thanks in part to my guest, that I have never done in my entire 30 years of rod building, which is wake up in the morning with a blank and components completely unassembled and build an entire rod to the point of finished. And I mean two
Oh,
coats of finish. I mean finished, ready to rock within the
nice.
same day. And that is thanks in no small part to the new halftime next level finish from my guest, Kevin Brotz, and the team at Get Bit Outdoors. So welcome, Kevin.
Thanks, Bill. That's awesome. Well, I'm flattered and honored to be here, and I'm thrilled to hear that it worked out for you.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you way more about it. But first, let me introduce you. For those of you who don't know Get Bit or know Kevin, so Kevin's the owner of Get Bit Outdoors down in Florida, in the Orlando area. He has been a custom builder for 26 years. He, is on the Cast King, Yeti. Who am I missing? You're on a bunch of pro staffs. I wrote them down.
Pathfinder,
Pathfinder
yeah,
boats.
yeah, Vertex.
Yeah, there you go. So all kinds of hunting and fishing pro staffs, and we love to feature new products here on the podcast. And I got to tell you, we're going to talk about the whole line of Next Level because it's way more than just halftime. But halftime really caught my attention, and we can go into why and why I think this is such a good idea and an idea whose time has come. But first of all, thanks for being on the Mastering Rod Building podcast and welcome.
No, thanks for having me. It's an honor. I talk about you all the time because you're one of those guys in the industry that's a wealth of knowledge, and your willingness to share is just amazing. So thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do.
I thank you to you and everybody else who's taught me something over the years because I'm grateful to have it and happy to share it. But so I ask everybody who's on this podcast, you don't get a pass. And you are truly like a passionate, avid outdoors person. You are a guide for gator hunts. You do all kinds of hunting, all kinds of fishing. Like, how did you first get into fishing, and how did you get into rod building?
So it's just so I'll start with fishing.
Okay.
I started fishing when I was about 1.5, 2 years old, and before I could even talk, I'd walk in my parents' room and I'd hit my dad in the head with a fishing rod while he was sleeping and beg him to go fishing. I couldn't say fishing, but I could say fishing, and it's just something God put on my heart.
Yep.
Waking up early, staying out it's just something that God put on my heart. My parents extremely, they were willing to let me pursue that passion. They enjoyed the outdoors, but it wasn't their thing. But they would go because I wanted to, and it's just something that one of those God things, just a
Yeah.
major blessing.
Well, that's awesome.
And
Yeah,
then,
no, it's hard to explain the benefit we get from this if you're sort of touched by it and it's what you're called to do. It is a blessing. How'd you get into rod building?
yeah. So a friend of my dad's, when I was 14 or 15, I know I wasn't driving yet, so I was probably 14.
Okay.
And a friend of my dad's left a rod kit on our front doorstep one day. And it was just I'll never forget, it was a St. Croix rod blank. It was a blim,
Uh-huh.
a little bag of components, and an old VHS that wouldn't even play. And, I could make out, a few words. The video was horrible. And that's way before YouTube. And I mean, that tells you how old I am.
Well, I was gonna say
And
we didn't have the resources back then that we have now. There was nothing,
no,
man.
yeah,
Whose videotape was it?
I don't even know. I have the rod that I built,
Okay.
and I still have those spools of thread, but I don't know if I have that video anywhere. It was two older guys, and the video was horrible.
Yeah.
And I say it's horrible. I'm sure they did a good job, but when I played it, I couldn't see it or hear well enough. It
Yeah.
was just a bad tape.
Yeah.
But I can make out enough
I wonder if
to,
it was a
to
Dale Clemens tape. There was a guy, Mark. God, I'm blanking on his name, and I met him at the New Jersey Sport Fishing Show, and he had a VHS tape back in those days, and I had seen it. I've never seen his video, but so we'll pause now for most of our listeners to go look up what a VHS is because I'm sure, right? There's people we just lost. Well, that's
yeah.
awesome. What was the gentleman's name? Your dad's friend who gave you the kit?
So his name was Robert.
Is he
Robert.
still alive?
Yes, good
Man,
dude.
does he know that what that's turned into and that this is like how you make your living and this is like a thing?
Yes, and we touch base often. It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Honestly, I had the kit for months, and I put it in my closet, and wasn't interested back then. 14, I was just fishing,
Yep.
fishing,
Yep.
fishing, fishing.
Yep.
Didn't want to stop. Get
Right.
home, I'd do homework, I'd mow my lawns, and then I'd go fishing. And finally, we were heading for a summer vacation with the family, and I wanted one more rod. And I was like, well, I could go spend, $100 or so. Because back
Right.
then, I never, not bragging, but my dad's an engineer, and I was raised, hey, you buy once, you buy right,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was, I think, 12 years old. I broke a St. Croix in my grandma's trunk, and
Oh.
you know, I remember the devastation. But I called them up, and the lady's like, "You sound awful young for using St. Croix," and it was a great conversation. So I've always been passionate for performance,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and been very blessed to be down that path. So anyway, I wanted a rod, and I was like, well, I can either go buy a rod for $100 or more, because I'm not going to buy a cheap one,
Right.
or I can build this
Figure out
kit.
how to build this one. I've got in my closet. Yeah.
Right. So I never we were leaving the next day,
No.
and I stayed
You
up
needed
all night.
halftime.
I know. I needed it. And
uh,
I stayed up all night, um, trying to fiddle through this VHS. And I'll never forget, my parents woke up at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I'm at the kitchen table fiddling. I had a cardboard box. I didn't even have a hand wrapper. I'm just spinning this thing on top of a box.
it
And I, I
works.
had
It
I
works.
had dark green thread and Fuji gold metallic.
Yeah.
And just it looked like I was tying my shoes on this thing. I didn't know what I was
Hey, who
doing.
cares? You got to start somewhere.
And that's right. And I heated it up. I kept heating the epoxy to try to make it cure faster. And,
Right.
it still wasn't ready by the time we went to the Keys. So I'll never forget, I hung it from my parents' roof in their car. We had a old Buick, one of those ones that looked like just a tank.
Yeah.
And I suspended it from the roof so that the epoxy wouldn't touch anything. And it dried on the way to the Keys, and I fished it all week. It was great.
That's
It
a
was amazing.
great story. Not least of which because I drove a 1979 Buick Century station wagon all through high school.
Yes.
The battle
Yes.
wagon. I can sort of vaguely picture the car, right? Oh, that's a great story, man. Well, and it
Yeah.
sort of leads us right into our topic for today. So I'll tell you this whole story, and we've been in show season. Like we passed each other like ships in the night at ICAST. I think we got to catch up at a few of the shows. But one
Sure.
of the things that was a huge surprise to me when I took over Anglers Resource in 2022 was I got to know the product line a little better. And we sell a ton of stuff that is pure, just like emergency rod repair kits, tip repair kits, all this kind of stuff that as a custom builder, you probably aren't going to use, right?
Right.
And so I just
Right.
wasn't familiar with that part of Fuji's product line or Anglers Resource product line. It's actually not a Fuji product. It's assembled by us. And we sell most of them to like Bass Pro Shops and Academy, right? But one of the things that I found was we had a rapid cure epoxy that was formulated for us by FlexCoat in our emergency rod repair kit. And I was like, oh, that's such a good idea for repair, right? Because
Right.
I feel like everywhere I go, this is kind of one of the things I try to do to help my guide buddies out and these people I like fishing with is I will often travel with just a tote that's got like one flex coat dryer in it and some 5-minute epoxy and some, paste epoxy and some
Yeah.
finish,
Sure.
you know what I mean? And some generic size guides and a couple of spools of thread and some stuff and just like a box of tip tops, you know what I mean? And you can just crank
Right.
out like for someone who's like, I'm down here in down the road in Louisiana, in Venice or somewhere, it's a big deal to try to get rods repaired. It's like I can repair 12 like one afternoon when we're back from fishing, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I clearly saw the need for a rapid set thing for repairs, and so I got real excited about this stuff. And I used it, and it works. It's rapid repair, but it's more of an emergency repair. So like I would never build an entire rod with it, right? Like
Right.
you can see which guide is the one that was repaired, and that's okay. The property that was sort of focused on was emergency repair, like on the water repair, like fix it right now. But they got me thinking about this concept, right? And so Fuji has even formulated in the last 2 years a really, really good two-part epoxy that's like a totally different formulation, very different chemical compound and everything else than what most people are using for rod finish. And it's awesome, but it's just prohibitively expensive, right? Like I don't, you can't afford to use it. You know what I mean? It's just, it's just too much. And I talked to them and I said, could you alter the chemistry and get us a rapid cure, right? And so I haven't gotten any progress on this. I promise I'm getting to a point here in a second, and I'm going to hand the mic off to you. But it got me thinking about. So pause there. I saw a need for a rapid set, rapid cure thread coating, right? Not only for repairs, but for times you needed, like I build a ton of prototypes. They're not pretty. It's just blank testing. It's just get it out there and see if it works. It's testing guide trains and setups. It's testing handle links, right? So I don't care what this rod looks like. It just needs to be fully functional, and I need to get it done quickly. And so a few years ago, I got to spend some time with Lance Dupree at Swampland Tackle, and I'm sure you know Lance. And Lance is a really good builder, really specializes in like ultralight bass and inshore rods. And what I was really taken with Lance is how fast he is, how fast he wraps, how fast he finishes, how fast he can put a rod together. And when I got to talking to him about it, one of his big secrets, and he told me, he said, I'm starting to use this Fusion 15 from Gen 4, right, which is a strong paste type epoxy that sets in about 20 minutes. And I'm kind of like you, like do it once, do it right. I never really felt good about 5-minute epoxy or rapid set products or any of this kind of stuff. But I started using that, and the reality is it is a very, very strong paste epoxy, and it sets enough that you can go to the next step within, 15 to 20 minutes, right? I think it cross-links and has a full cure cycle that lasts longer than that, but you can like your parts aren't going anywhere if they're properly assembled after about 15, 20 minutes. And after sort of learning this from Lance, I started doing it. I've had 0 failures. The only thing I don't like about it is the hardener smells really bad in that particular two-part epoxy system, but it works great. And then it brought me back to this concept of, man, if I just had a finish that would set faster, but that kept the properties of a finish, kept flexibility, kept clarity, didn't crack, did all the displaced bubbles, leveled well, did all these things we needed to do. And so immediately when I got an email, because I'm on your email list and I get emails from GetBit all the time. And I got an email about halftime, and I said, oh my gosh, that's it. I'm gonna order it and I'm gonna try it. And that's what let me build this entire 7-foot spinning rod yesterday, starting from Fuji grips, real TCH seat with the arbor separate, multi-pieces of these Fuji style JDM carbon fiber grips. Whole thing I got assembled. Yeah. And then I was able to, because it has a kind of a hidden thread foregrip, I was able to do my decorative wraps and trims of the split grip, do a coat of finish on that, write my inscription, put my decal on, put another coat of finish on that, and I ended up needing a third coat of finish over my kind of decal area. And then I was able to wrap my guides and put 2 coats of finish on it. And I'm talking, Kevin, I did it all yesterday without breaking a sweat. I didn't stay up late. I didn't get up early. Right. And the rod looks great.
Nice.
So it's like, oh my gosh. And again, people should use whatever they want, and horses for courses, and there's a time and a place for everything. Sure. But there is definitely a time for me when I need to go quickly, and this is a game changer for that. So talk to me about this, because this is new. The halftime is new to me, but it's part of the Next Level product line, and there's actually several products, and Next Level isn't new. It's been around it's relatively new, but it's been out for a while. Yeah. Talk me through like halftime and your development of that and how it fits in the whole Next Level product line.
Sure, absolutely. So Next Level was launched about 2.5, 3 years ago, like you mentioned, after about 11 years of research and development, 11 to 13 years, depending upon if you include the 2 years that I tested it. But ultimately, to answer your first question in regards to halftime, halftime was launched Um, Barely. I almost didn't do it. I only did it
Really?
because, yeah, I mean, we had launched regular next level, which is a true high build, and
Right.
then we launched our light.
Hmm.
And Kerry Batson was a big fan of both, but he said, "Hey, look, they take a little bit longer to cure.
Yeah.
I want something that cures a little bit faster."
Right.
And I was like, "All right, Kerry's being nitpicky. I get it. He's detail oriented, but let me go ahead and try to set one up for Kerry."
Right.
So we worked on a quicker hardener with the same properties being priority.
Right.
And in the middle of that, I sent it to a number of builders, including Kerry, and it caught fire.
Yeah.
And I never in a million years, now that I think about it, it makes sense, right? Hearing you talk about it and more builders I talk to, it makes total sense.
Right.
But I really wasn't looking to fill that void.
Yeah.
I was simply just trying to appease Kerry
Well,
at that
hey,
point.
and thank God for it. Like, thank you, Kerry Batson. One of your many contributions. He's such a good dude. One of his
Yeah.
many contributions to the rod building community. Well, it's kind of one of those things. I don't think I didn't need it until I knew I did. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
5 years ago, I wasn't trying to build rapid prototypes, and I wasn't building
Right.
so many, and I wasn't trying to get them on the water so fast for testing. Right? Like we've been going through. We're released these brand new point blanks. Like I got to build and test and fish every one of them,
Sure.
and I feel better if I fish 2 or 3 of them. You know what I mean? Like just to be
Right.
sure. Like you got to, there's no way to know until you do it yourself. So like admittedly, that made me hurry a little bit or change the way I thought about building quickly, which created some need for me. But if you think about it, and again, I'm going to go back to what you said because this is what I'm most impressed with. And again, I've just built this rod. It hadn't been out on the salt water for a year yet. Like we'll see how it holds up and everything else. But I know I'm confident it's going to hold up well. And if you didn't tell me it was rapid set, I wouldn't have really guessed that from the properties. You know what I mean? It's just like it is relatively thick and high build, which doesn't bother me at all because I like a thicker finish that I can thin with heat, and put it on heavy and take off the excess. But it also solves some problems. Like if you don't have a big clean space where you can let your rod turn for 4 hours, well, what if you only have to let your rod turn for like an hour and a half? You know what I mean? Like my shop, I've got about, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coats with it so far, 5 batches, right? And I think they're setting up to where you don't have to turn them anymore about an hour and 30 minutes, right? In about 75-degree temperature. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like you didn't think you needed it. You didn't think you needed to fill the niche. You were just trying to make Carrie happy. But
Right.
now that I've seen how to use it, like, dude, it can be a
Yeah.
game changer. Like you can move pretty quick. And I'm not actually changing my normal application at all with both my
Right.
coats on guide wraps, or I'm putting it on at 200 RPM with the brush, and I'm going back with a spatula and cleaning up edges and taking off excess, warming it gently with the lighter and taking off excess. That's all I'm doing. And
Sure.
I did a 7-foot rod that went down to size 5 guides. I think it's got 11 guides in a tip top. I had plenty of time. I didn't have to rush.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's been the nice thing about it. And that was the hard part about trying to name it, right? We thought about calling it a quick clear or whatever. I didn't want people to think it was similar to like a 15-minute because those are
Right,
way too rapid.
right,
Like you said, that's for like, a couple, one and done repair, that kind of
right.
thing. I didn't want people to associate this with that super rapid or the result of the super rapid, which is
Yeah,
usually a more yellow finish or a harder, more
right.
prone to cracking. So
Exactly.
in this finish here, I mean, the feedback that we've been getting is, I mean, I'm talking from big companies who are putting multiple coats on a day, some putting 3 on a day, as well as custom rod builders who are, obviously doing everything from abalone to Giarushi's to marbling, all decals, like you mentioned, all that stuff. It takes multiple coats, and they're not using it for just a quick fix or
Yep,
a quick repair. A
yep.
lot of companies are, and rod builders too, to my amazement, are switching over to halftime for everything.
Yeah. Well, I kind of
Which
get
is
it
crazy.
after using it though, right? Like for me, I was thinking it was a niche player, but now, and if you think about being a rod builder, I mean, it's just the hardest thing about those guys and gals that are trying to actually make money building rods. Like your labor
Right.
is the most expensive component, and that's like the rate limiting factor. Like how much can you get done in one day? And that's why I was so fascinated by someone like Lance Dupree, who's cranking so many out at Swampland. But then you go watch and he's able to do literally, he's probably doing 5 to 10 handles in the time I was previously doing one. Now I'm not trying to be in that big a hurry, but
Sure.
if you can get a really good result and
Mm-hmm.
it's just as good and it doesn't ever come loose and you don't have any bonding issues or any problems, like why faster is not bad, right? It's just different,
Right.
right? It's not the
Right.
way I was used to doing things. And then it's the same way with the finishing, man, to be able to go back and recoat well within, I wish I'd watched the times more closely. I think you could recoat within 2 hours.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, probably
Yeah.
recoat within an hour and a half. I don't know. I didn't try it, and again, I'm reluctant to speculate because you kind of don't know until you go. And I try to
Right.
keep my advice actually experience based and say I used it. Here's what worked for me. But I'm really impressed with it so far, and I think it's got a place. And I think I'm going to be using it. Maybe I'm not going to be using it for some custom showcase build, for a retirement present for somebody or something, but like for rods that I'm building to get out on the water and fish, like if I can get multiple coats on multiple rods, then and think about like I love tiger wraps. I get so tired of putting 4 coats of finish on the under wrap of a tiger wrap and waiting. The fact that I could do all 4 coats in the time it used to take me to do 1 or 2 coats,
Sure.
and then have it cure hard enough that I could go and do my over, like that's real time saving. Like that's something, if I adjust my sort of strategy and technique, I can get a lot more done in less time just by virtue of the quicker cure cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a game changer for us, for our customers and companies as well. I mean, I had to kick out. It's funny we talked about the keys to start off this, podcast. We went to the Keys a few weeks ago, and I had 3 rods I needed to build, and I was leaving the next day, plus a gaff.
I'm
And
noticing a pattern with you,
yeah,
Kevin. This is second trip we've talked about to the Keys. Second
to the
time you
Keys.
wait. Did you have to borrow the parents' Buick this time?
No, we upgraded this time to
You see
Suburban.
where I'm going,
But
right? You see where I'm going. I've heard a story a lot
it,
like this before. It was
it's
now it's 3
nonstop.
rods.
It's nonstop. And it's funny, talking to Aaron, up there who's amazing. You better hold on to him. That
Oh,
guy's
I know.
gold.
A Rod's the best, man. I couldn't do
Uh,
anything without that guy.
I had so much fun talking to him. Same thing, we're all busy, so we procrastinate,
Right.
and it comes down to the last minute, and that's where I thought that this finish might, really find its niche.
Yeah.
But it's been amazing how many builders are using it for everything. And for those Keys rods that I just did, same thing. I mean, I had 3 different rods, 2 coats on every rod, plus a gaff. And I had time in between to sit down and catch up on emails and everything else, and everything was done by 4 o'clock to go
Yeah,
home.
it's crazy. It's like
You
you get so used to the timing. I mean, I've been using the same, like I've been using Flex Coat forever. I got to
Right,
turn that about 2.5 hours, and
right,
I really don't like to recoat it. I want it to get hard enough that I can like trim fuzzies and do stuff like that,
right.
and it's not sort of gummy. So I'm usually having to wait 6 hours. Have been using, like Gen 4, love that stuff. But again, that you mentioned it earlier, I think this is a really important thing for people to understand. When you go about formulating these epoxies, you're going for a combination of properties, right? And it's a
Sure.
combination of how the stuff acts when you're measuring it, when you're mixing it, clearly as it's coating threads and penetrating and releasing bubbles and doing all these kinds of things. But then also obviously the most important thing is how it performs once it's on the rod and you're using it for its intended purpose, right? And
Right.
so you're constantly, if you've never tried to formulate one of these things, you're constantly puts and takes and trade-offs, right? Like I get a little more
Absolutely.
pot life, but I got to give up a little clarity, or I can get a little more
Yeah.
build, but then I don't get as good a bubble release, right? Like it's always this combination of things. And I just, what struck me about this stuff is just that it just feels like finish. It doesn't feel like a sacrifice or like cutting corners or giving something up,
Right.
but then it works. Now, again, it is thick. It is a heavily viscous kind of finish. And it says right on the bottle, and it's one of the things I
Right.
want to talk to you about. So I don't have trouble with thick finish, and I mixed mine, and I got a lot of bubbles in mine, and I put it right on with the brush with a lot of bubbles, and a bunch of them popped just by applying it. And then I went back
Right.
and warmed it very gently with the lighter, and all those bubbles let go. So I didn't have any problems with bubbles. But it does say on the bottle, if you want a little um, lower viscosity, you can, if you want to flow a little more, you
Right.
can warm it up. Like, walk us through that. Like, what are some of the pointers and tips you would give? I mean, I would say I'm not treating it any different than any other finish I've used, and I'm liking the
Right.
results. But what
Good.
tips and tricks would you give people for it?
So couple main points there. One would be, sounds like you use the regular half time. We have a light as well.
Okay.
That's already a lighter viscosity.
Okay.
But for someone who may have the regular halftime or regular next level and maybe wants to make it a little bit thinner, and this is going back 25 years to that night on the table where I was building that first rod.
Right.
I have always just applied a little bit of heat underneath my mixing cup while I mix it. I just find that it makes the two parts mix easier, quicker, and I am the worst when it comes to. I don't set a timer. I don't sit there and babysit my mix. I mean, I frothed it up, make sure I can't see any more swirls. Half the time I have more bubbles in my mixture than I do to even see my swirls.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just apply it thin, or use a little bit of a stiffer brush. I love, not to plug our own product, but I think a lot of builders could benefit no matter what finish you're using from a better brush.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't mean an expensive brush. We have a brush called Better Brush for just that reason.
Yep.
And it's cheap. It's the price of a disposable brush, and it has
But it's
stiffer
flat.
bristle.
It has much finer bristles, and it behaves a lot more like a natural brush than a synthetic, than these plastic bristle synthetic. It gives you a lot of control, and I like it being flat for how fast you can cover a broad area. I've been using that brush, that style of brush for a while. I'm a fan.
It's great. You can put it on edge. You can get that
Yeah, put it
razor
on edge,
knife
use it almost like a spatula, or just push the bead over on it. That's what I like about it. Is I used to try to go over onto the edge under power, and now with that brush, if you turn it vertical, think it's a flat brush, so skinny side down on the blank, you can just push it down. You don't even have to move it over, and you create almost like this bubble or wave of finish that will go right off the threads onto the blank and give you like perfect. Yeah, I don't. Use whatever you're using. Use whatever makes you happy. I know I use a spatula for lots of stuff and all that, but man, that brush is, to me, the easiest brush I've ever used under power to get clean edges.
It is. It is. And with that too, just kind of share a tip with the listeners. If you can apply under power, do it. Give it a shot. Roger Cedars, he's an absolute legend. Love Roger. He shared that with me years ago at one of the ICRVEs.
Yep.
He said, man, start using your power wrapper to apply your finish, because I was always just putting in a dryer.
Yep.
And I'd let it rotate, 8 RPMs or whatever it was, and try to sit there and finish. And it's just,
way harder.
That's
way harder.
So much harder when you can sit there and control that speed with a foot pedal or use a 200 RPM finishing motor.
I was going to say 200 RPM. That seems like the magic number to me, man.
Game changer.
Yeah. That's
absolutely
awesome. Well, so okay, so use a better brush, and don't be afraid to sort of experiment with the brush. Power obviously works really well. Anything else as it relates to the next level? Because the halftime, because I want to talk about the other next level stuff too.
No, I mean, honestly, like you said, it's the same resin, so it has the same exact properties. The hardener is just a little bit quicker. It doesn't generate more heat. I did a live call with the guys from the guild up at St. Croix a few weeks ago while they were in a big meeting room. And one of the questions they brought up was a great question. Well, being at next level, or the halftime kicks a little bit quicker, does it create more heat, and might that make decals lift?
It didn't for me. I didn't get more heat. Yeah.
Right. So it creates the same amount of heat. It just generates it a little bit faster, so it cures a little faster.
Yeah.
And so I would say your pot life is about the same. So I would treat it the same.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, ultimately you don't have to baby it. It's honestly just as easy to use as any other finish.
Well, that's awesome. So talk to me about the whole next level product line, because you've got
Sure.
the original next level, right? In a high build, in a low build, or a thin. So and I ask this of everybody who gets in the epoxy game, because I'm always curious, like, what made you want to? We have more choices. We're kind of talking about how much video and educational material there is out there for builders now compared to the old days. Like, there's more products with epoxies and finishes and stuff too. Like, what were you looking at, or what were you missing that made you want to go out and formulate your own epoxy?
So ultimately, when I started Get Bit Outdoors, one of our first product lines was our Liberty Made in America blank line, and we came out with white. And Mark Krause, as a gift to myself and the family, built a white Liberty with Fuji guides, and he turned down these beautiful custom metal winding checks and
Oh yeah, he does some
wood
gorgeous
grips. I
work.
mean, Mark put, I think, 40 to 50 hours. He wove our label, our logo into the
Yeah.
rod. Just an amazing build. And in a few months, the whole thing turned yellow. And, I'd been a rod builder for probably, I don't know, 10 years at that point.
Right.
So we all know, especially then, and a lot of people still kind of accept that epoxies are going to yellow.
Right. Yeah.
But ultimately, when that build, which was so beautiful 2 months
It's so
earlier,
precious to you. Yeah.
and then, I still have it, but I don't like to show it because it's embarrassing how orange and yellow that rod got.
Yeah.
But ultimately, fuel to fire. I said, this is insane. We can send a guy to the moon, but we can't have a 2-part or 1-part, whatever, any kind of
Right.
rod finish
Right.
that would stay clear enough, long enough. To me, that would be acceptable.
Right.
So I just took it upon as a pet project, and I beat on it for 10, 11 years, talking to chemists, talking to engineers.
I didn't realize you've been
And
working on it that long. I think you first talked to me about it 3 or 4 years, or 4 or 5 years ago. I know it's been a while, but I didn't realize it was that long you'd been messing with it.
no one knew. I didn't talk to. I mean, if you worked for me, you'd see my office. You'd see all the stuff. I mean,
Right.
I had 10 jugs. I had 5-gallon buckets. I had
Right.
little containers. I still have half of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could fill this room probably twice with all the stuff that I've
Oh
thrown
gosh.
out.
Yeah.
And Chris, it was insane. So about 3 years ago, I almost gave up. I had all but stopped looking
Yeah.
because like you said, there's so many finishes. I have zero interest in just coming out with another finish for the sake of having a finish.
Right.
It just doesn't interest me.
Right.
So ultimately came across a group of engineers, chemical engineers, and they dug in and they sent us some formulas. We did some feedback, got some stuff we finally liked. I sent it to Doc Ski. I sent it to Mark Kraus.
Yeah, I know you sent
They
to
made
Mark
some,
because Mark was the one who called me and was like, "Man, have you tried this stuff? I love this stuff."
yeah. Him and, I've known Mark for a while, and amazing guy. And I did not know Doc.
Oh, really?
And
Oh, he's such a good dude. Such a
man,
great guy.
he just talking about him gives me goosebumps and warms my heart, man. He's just an amazing individual, and I was intimidated to even approach him.
Oh, don't
Um,
be. He's
and
a sweetheart.
I know that now, but I felt like, he's a legend. Why would he
He
bother?
is. Yeah.
And I sent him some samples. He sent me some feedback. I sent him some new stuff after we got a new batch from the chemist based on his feedback. And he FaceTimed me, and he was lit up like a Christmas tree. He said, I love this stuff, Kevin. The leveling is amazing. He's like, the clarity, it looks clear. We'll see how long it holds up, but
Right.
the leveling. So hence the name Next Level.
Yeah.
When he kept going on about the leveling,
Yeah.
it stuck. And so at that point, we knew we had a finish that we liked, but keep in mind, this was still relatively fresh to us. How was it going to hold up as far as clarity goes?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. There's only
So
one way to
at
find
that
out, right?
but I didn't want to wait 5 years to
Right.
find out, but I
Right.
didn't want to put a product out that I just had hope in.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
that's what
hired
you
a third.
can't, right? Yeah.
No, because ultimately we could be back where we started. The whole reason why we came up with the concept of finding a better finish if it turned yellow. So anyway, we sent it to a third party who specializes in UV testing. So they put it in UV ovens, they put it in all kinds of chambers, and I put it on a white blank, multiple white blanks, and we put a decal of each finish and leader in the industry, right? And
Right.
we covered each one with their own respective finish. And I told them, I said, put it in your UV chambers until all of them turn yellow, or ours turns yellow. That's
Right.
immediate kick out.
Right.
And ultimately, we just stayed in there. The rest of them turned yellow. Ours didn't. I told them keep going. It didn't turn. I said turn it up, make this thing fail. I want to know when it's going to fail.
Right.
And ultimately, they cooked it so long, the 3M decal turned yellow underneath, but the finish itself outside of the decal was still clear.
That's crazy.
So I was ecstatic. And then at that point, I was so timid to launch the product. It still took me about a year of being comfortable with it on my own, with real rod building tests, putting it in tinfoil, putting it on roofs, sending it to
Right.
other builders for unbiased
Yeah.
opinions.
Yeah.
I almost didn't, I was so hesitant. I didn't
Yeah.
want to launch a product that could
Until you
potentially
knew it was right.
fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Well, that on behalf of builders in the industry, I appreciate you doing that because I feel like it takes a lot of patience, especially
yeah,
when you're excited, especially when you get excited calls from people like Toxkey that you're just excited he
right,
even called, right? Much less that the
right,
feedback's positive, right?
right.
But that's the only way, like you said, do it once, do it right. I feel bad. You sent me or gave me some samples at some point along the way, and then I waited a while to use them, and then I felt so bad for not using them that I never used
No,
it. I don't know. So
no,
I was useless to you in this process, but I'm glad you got there. So now you've got next level, the original finish in a regular build and a thin or a light build. You
right,
have the halftime, which is
right.
what we've been talking about, which is the one that's new to me. And again, I applaud the creativity. And it's crazy to hear the story. It sort of scares me that you almost didn't do it, that it was just because of
Yeah,
Carrie, man. That's nuts. But I'm
right,
glad you did. And kudos to you, Carrie Batson. But
right.
I'll have to buy him a drink the next time I see him. But obviously that's got a spot in the arsenal, certainly for repair. But I think
Sure.
for being able to move quickly. But then you've also got this is something else you do that I really really like. You have the syringes, the good non-contaminated, non-rubber containing syringes, and the
Inserts.
the
Yeah,
inserts for the bottle caps, right? So it saves me. Of
right.
course, now you start offering apps. I already had to buy 100 of them, so it's going to be a minute. But I love that I can get that when I order the finish because it's the only way to accurately measure it. And the other thing people don't realize is when you're using the right syringe with the right insert in the bottle, um, you get no moisture, no contamination, no anything else in there. You know what I mean? It's like an airtight seal, and I think that helps keep the finish fresh over time in your shop. But you've also got now you've got the next level lockdown, like what we're calling a structural handle paste. So talk to me about that.
Right. Yes, yeah, lockdown's been amazing. So we really spent a lot of time once we locked down the next level stuff, the finish. We dove into the paste and super creamy. Just obviously structural integrity was huge. Wanted to make
Right,
sure that would stay locked down in place and not
right.
go anywhere, not crack under pressure.
Right.
With so many of the slow pitch jigging guys out there, all these really slow, moderate action blanks, that
Boy, do
has to
they put,
flex.
oh yeah, it's got to flex. We're learning that, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's a great example because I'm into that. I do that all the time, and
right.
it will expose construction issues. And what
Yeah,
Kevin's referring to is the blank flexes all the way through the seat, all the way to the butt. And if you're using a very rigid assembly or a brittle epoxy, or there's any number of ways that can sort of reveal itself. And you could have been building rods and fishing using these techniques for 30 years, like me, and didn't realize it was
yeah,
a problem until until you start fishing these blanks that you've got and hooking big fish and fishing high drag pressures and flexing them all
yeah.
the way through. It's telling, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we just decided to, dig in. People were asking for a structural paste.
Yeah.
People are still asking for a color preserver, so we're working on that.
Oh
But in
wow. Yep.
regards to lockdown, just wanted a real creamy, easy to use paste that
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't drip or sag, make a mess
Yep.
when you applied it, but
Right.
at the same time wouldn't break your popsicle stick when you're going to mix it. So it's not
Yep.
chunky or too thick.
Right.
I mean, we customized that thickness to the nth degree, and it's been flying off the shelf. We got a really big company who's trying to get us to put it in a two-part cylinder right now, so they can just shoot both parts at the same time, pre-mixed.
Mm-hmm.
Companies are falling in love with it. Again, this was kind of one of those things. I was like, well, we'll offer it because people are asking for it. Didn't know how well it would do,
Right.
because there's other two parts out there, but
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
it's just different enough,
Yeah.
and how well it cleans up, the working time, etc. It's been flying off the shelf. It's been amazing.
Well, God bless you for making the two parts easily discernible from one another too, because
Yeah,
I don't care who you are, and like I've
yeah,
been using Rod Bond forever. I love the Fusion 15 that Gen 4 has, but like any of these, if you try to use any of the ones where you can't visibly tell which part is
sure.
which, it's just a problem.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And low odor, that was a big request too. A lot of customers are
Yeah.
getting real privy to health issues. You know, VOCs are a real deal. So
Yeah, they are.
they're working with finish or a two-part paste. You know, you don't want that nastiness. So,
Nope.
you
Nope.
know, low VOC was a big thing also.
Yep. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, you certainly got it accomplished, and this is exciting. I mean, and again, I tell people all the time when I get more questions about finish than I feel like anything else, and it's like, look, if you found something that works and it works well for you, don't change anything. Keep doing it, right? And I personally, for one, have cared less about mini builders with yellowing, right? Just because I haven't built that many light colored blanks and everything else. But
Right.
you know, when you need to keep a build non-yelling completely clear, it can be a real thing, right? Like the last thing you want to do is be Mark Kraus and do all this beautiful work, all this custom handles and trims and all this stuff, all this weaving, everything gorgeous, and then it yellows up on you. Like that'll hurt your
Yeah.
feelings, right? So if that is important to you, if the ability to move quickly is important to you, which has become important to me, it wasn't for a long time, but
Right.
I think if
Right.
I was trying to make a living building rods, I'd be really dialed on this just because of how fast you can go, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but if you'll let me, so thank you so much for covering. And you can, by the way, you can find all this stuff. If you're not familiar with GetBit, you can just go to getbitoutdoors.com. And it's just like it sounds, GetBitoutdoors.com, getbitoutdoors.com. And you can see everything. And they're a full line. You carry everything Batson. You carry everything Fuji. You got a
Yeah.
great selection. It's a very full service site. And you also have some real specialty items, which is the other thing I'm gonna pivot and put you on the spot while I've got you. So I never thought I'd be saying this, but Aaron and I fielded a phone call just a couple of weeks ago, and guys like, "Hey man, I got to build I need to build an alligator rod." You know what I mean? And I was so proud of
Sure.
myself because, so I mentioned this in the beginning, but Kevin is a full-time alligator guide, permitted, has licenses and everything. And it's just a limited thing. Not everybody has these. You do this all the time, but I was so proud of myself because I talked to you about it enough that I was like, well, is it like a casting rod or is it just like a bait rod, you know? But so I got to send this guy your way because you're the Gator rod aficionado because you've done so much of this. A lot of people, even custom rod builders, might be slightly surprised to hear that we're using rods in a gator hunt. And there's more than one way to
Sure.
hunt gators, right? But
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind. I'm not trying to completely pivot the subject, but I've never had anyone on the podcast who's an authority on this topic. And I should mention, this is another thing that's funny. So Shaw Grigsby, legendary
Yes.
Bassmaster, you know, Elite Series angler, one of the best sight fishermen in the world. Nice guy, great angler, been around forever. He apparently, I'm told, in his retirement from professional fishing, is like a hardcore nuisance gator hunting now. And so,
Yeah.
like, I feel like I've seen more references to gator stuff in the last 6 months than I've seen in the last 6 years, you know,
Nice.
and it's all somehow Shaw Grigsby related. So you may be sitting on, you
Yeah.
know, the renaissance of your gator industry, but talk to us about these rods and how you guys use the various rods and the way that you're legally, compliantly, everything on
Sure.
the level, targeting these gators.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love Shaw. Shaw's a legend. I've met him a couple of times, and I see his Gator post pop up recently. And
Well, apparently
over the
he's
past
into
couple,
it, man. I don't know
I
him, but we have mutual friends, and my buddy
yeah,
Jay Kumar, who writes Bass Blaster. If you don't know it, bassblaster.com is like the best coverage
right.
of all the levels of competitive bass fishing there is, and he's got all kinds of scoops on baits and techniques and stuff. It's awesome. I love it. But he knows Shaw real well and has been talking about how eat up with gators he is.
Yes. Yeah, so absolutely. It's the best of fishing and hunting combined. And if you're a rod builder, it's a recipe for just perfection, right? If you're passionate about performance, which is why I have just dug into rod building to the nth degree, and that's why, you know, I cannot thank you and the team at Fuji enough because it has changed the game for both fishing and for what I should say is your innovation, right? Has changed
I
the
wish it
game
was
for
mine.
both.
Fuji's innovation. Yeah, I'm just happy to
Right.
distribute it.
So they're in a, it's changed the game when it comes to fishing or gator hunting. And ultimately, gator hunting is a huge part of my livelihood. And if I
Right.
can cast an extra 15, 20 feet, it can mean a paycheck or no paycheck. And it's not a matter of maybe getting a bite. Like, no, if I can reach that gator, I can catch him.
Right.
But if I can't reach him, I can't catch him. If I don't
Right.
catch him, I don't get paid.
Right.
So ultimately, I've spent way too many hours geeking out about, the best guide train, the
Well, see,
best
I love
line.
this though, because this is how you figure it out as you do the work, right?
Yeah.
And so you've done it
Yeah.
as a matter of income and as a matter of whether you're able to
Yeah.
get these gators or not, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What have you learned? I mean, I know you've learned a lot, but
Sure. Yes. So I've learned that Torzite is an absolute game changer. Uh,
oh,
you
talk
know,
to me, baby. Let's sell some Torzite. Now you're making my day.
so it honestly, I didn't want to for the longest time, back in the day, talking to Jim Ising,
Yep.
amazing individual.
Yeah. We miss Jim.
He
Yeah.
I miss him too. We
I
had a
wouldn't
lot
be
of
here right
really,
now if it
really,
weren't for Jim. No question.
a lot of great conversations about, guide trains and performance. And
Yeah.
he convinced me to try Torzite. And as an angler, I was like, I'm okay fishing the way I fish. I can
Right.
cast far enough. It's okay. If I need to cast farther, I'll move the boat or I'll walk on the bank.
Right. Right.
But when it comes to gator hunting, that's not an option. They're going to go down.
Yeah.
And
So
some of
talk
these
a little
gators
bit
are,
about this. Like you're having to see these gators at distance
yes.
and be
Yeah.
able to
So,
essentially cast over them, right?
right. And that, I
So
don't
you have
mean
to be
like,
accurate and you have to throw a distance. Yeah.
right. So to put it in perspective, 80 yards is not close enough. So I have a couple bombing rods behind me that I've dialed in. The farthest I've cast accurately is 121 yards with a spinning rod.
That's a long way.
And you can barely see the treble hook make a splash. And these gators, they're super spooky. So
Yeah.
they're not the gators that you see down by the dock. These are
Right.
gators that have been hunted in public land for years and years and years.
Right.
They're
They're
50 years
spooky.
old.
Yeah.
They're super spooky.
Yeah.
So you have to stay outside their comfort zone and be able to reach out there and touch them.
Yeah.
So performance is everything. So
Yeah.
from, $100 a spool braid to, Torzite guides and everything in between, I have spent countless. Luckily, I live on a small lake. I can
Yeah.
put buoys. I put buoys out there with anchors, and I sit back here and I will make a cast. I'll take the same spool of line, put it on a different reel, cast it, see which side spool lip is getting better line flow.
Yep.
Moving the choke guide up back and forth, all
Yep.
that stuff in between, lighting the rod up to, increase my swing speed,
Yep.
all kinds of stuff to get a further cast and do it accurately. I mean,
Yep.
I have to hit a buoy this big at 100 yards to make a living.
Yeah.
And Torzite does it.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought that it would be that much of a game changer, but because it's so thin, so light, so smooth,
Yeah.
there's no, I mean, the first time I really cast it, I thought I broke my treble hook off mid cast,
I've
because
done
you know
that
how it is
before. Yeah.
when you cast something and the line breaks, nothing's moving.
Yeah. It feels like
So
nothing. Yeah.
you don't feel that friction. It just changes everything. Well, when you cast with a light braid
Yeah.
and a high profile, a high performance guide like a Torzite,
Yeah.
that friction is so reduced. Your mind has to switch and be like, what is going on?
Right.
And then you realize you're still connected. It's
Right.
just sailing,
Flying. Yeah. Yeah.
just flying. And
Yeah.
the same thing goes with our speck fishing. We fish for a speckled perch and crappie,
Yeah.
and we use 4-pound braid to cast as far as we can from the airboat. And
Yeah.
you don't really control the airboat like you do a bass boat. We kind of
No,
park under.
you have no precise close quarters control at all. Yeah.
No. So you want to cast as far as you can
Yeah.
without having to move because it's noisy and whatnot. So
Right.
again, Torzite, I mean, it's a game changer throwing those little jigs a country mile.
Yeah, the ultralight. Yeah, I know you're fishing really light stuff on really light line and have specialized rods you're building to do that. And then, of course, once you hook them, you got to have a rod that's soft enough to keep them buttoned up because the
Right.
crappie have such a soft mouth. I'm fascinated by all that stuff. This is where I feel like a lot of the innovation comes from. I feel bad. Sometimes I don't want to push towards like because I feel like I'm being a guide salesman. You know what I mean? And
Same.
it's like, and
Same.
I'm cognizant of the fact that you and I don't pay for it what the public pays
Right.
for it, admittedly, right? And I know they're expensive, but it's the only ceramic material ever designed from the ground up by Fuji and the ceramic manufacturer for fishing rod guides. Everything else is a repurposed from a commercial or industrial application. And not that they're not great. And people ask me sometimes, like, is it worth it? And it's kind of like, well, are you getting what you want out of your rods right now? Because, man,
Right.
Alkanite's worth it. K+O is worth it. SIC's worth it. Like, they're all great. Like, they're all so
Right.
much. And sometimes I feel like Torzite is so much better than it needs to be, just almost invincible. But then you run into these applications where you're at the
Right.
extreme limits of the tackle, or the use case is just so demanding, right? Like,
Right.
I don't think I could hit a buoy that big at 100 yards very often. It'd be hard for me to hit it with a pistol at 100 yards. much less casting. But yeah, it's a cool use case though. This guy, I think, was looking for a shorter, really stout, like, I don't know if
Yeah.
they're like baiting them and then
Yeah.
strapping onto the bait maybe, or clipping into the bait and reeling
Sure.
them in, or
Yeah, so when we go out, we take a few bombing rods, and then we take 3 to 4 heavy lifting rods, right?
okay.
So, in a bait rod is another situation too. So for a
Okay.
bait rod, I might use like a 7.5 foot, like a composite live bait rod, right? So most guys, when you're baiting, if you're doing it legally, you can't use a hook. So you're not setting the hook in a gator when you're
Okay.
using a bait. So he swallows the bait, and you need a soft enough tip that he can swim and pull a little bit of drag, or a lot of drag, without feeling resistance, right? So if you use a real stiff blank, or you're not giving him enough line freely enough, he'll feel that resistance and he'll spit the bait back out. So a bait rod, you want to use a soft tip with light drag. Bombing rod, I'll use an 8 foot 10 sometimes with a nice quick tip. And then for close quarters is often once the gator's already connected, right? So I've already bombed him, snagged him, I've fought him close to the boat. Now he's hunked down, he's on the bottom, and I need to lift him up. So in that case, we're using, double foot K series on, like a 50-pound RCKJB modern action. Yeah.
I said, when you're talking about that live bait, I was like, Batson RCLB 70L all day long.
Yep. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a good
It's
live
a
bait
great
blank,
blank.
man. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
perfect.
that's so interesting. I don't know why it surprises me. It's just ignorance on my part, I guess. I don't know why it surprised me that there's this much technicality to the different types of rods and the different times you use them and the different. I mean, it makes sense. Like, that doesn't surprise me at all in fishing. But I guess I don't know. I never thought of the gator hunting and fishing being so technique specific and sort of dialed. That's interesting. And of course, part of that may be my brother's got a good buddy who's in Southwest Georgia, Northeast Florida, who is a nuisance gator control person for the state, and he doesn't do that, right? Like, he's usually using electronic caller that sounds like a dog barking and getting them in shooting distance with a suppressed centerfire, or some other much more destructive means of controlling the gator, right? But yeah, so it's fascinating. I'm gonna have to bring AA Ron. We're gonna have to go on one of these hunts with you one of these times. I mean, I'm not like, my heart's not on fire to get one. I see them all the time in Louisiana, and especially from my days of kayak fishing, I just kind of have an uneasy truce with them. I'm like, I'm staying over here, you stay over there. Leave them alone. We'll leave each other alone, and everybody will be happy. But that'd be so cool to see all those different rods in action, man.
It's fun. It's kind of like a rod builder's play box, right? You
Well,
just all these
yeah,
different
100%, and nothing's available. You can't. I've never seen a bombing rod on the shelf. I've never seen a bait rod on the shelf, right? Like, you kind of have to build these, or where are you going to get them? You're going to have to repurpose something else that's not going to do the job as well as something purpose built.
Yes. No, it's gators don't make it easy. It's not like you see on TV where you can go out there and bait hooks and hang them. To hunt gators legally in the state of Florida, you have to get connected first. And these gators aren't dumb, so having the right tackle it's a game changer.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference.
Well, you're lucky that you're both of these things, right? Like, it probably made all this work to figure out the bombing rods has made you a better rod builder, and all the rod building ability has probably made you a better gator hunter,
100%, 100%, and it makes it so much fun, right? That's my passion is performance. So
yeah.
To sit here and play with all this stuff is so much fun. Sometimes I get home, I was like, did I do any work today?
Yeah.
Like,
it's all work. It's all research and development. What are you talking about? You're gonna get us all in trouble with talk like that. You stop it right now, Kevin Brotz.
It's true. It's fun. And the best thing is when you get that phone call, right? Someone else has the same problem that you are already worked on and you can help
Oh
them with.
yeah.
That's the best.
Well, I hope you're ready because you may get some phone calls based on this interview. Anyone who's
Hey,
interested in distance casting is you've
yeah,
piqued their interest for sure.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, if I could handle a conventional well enough, that would be the next step because those guys can cast a whole lot farther.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
these we
that's
saw some of that out in San Diego earlier this year. It's a whole that's a
yeah,
different skill, right? Like so I grew
yeah,
up where when you were surf casting from the beach, it was big spinners, right? And even
right.
like heavers, like 8 and bait, like big rods, they were always spinners. It's pretty impressive to watch some of these guys that have spent their whole life fishing off some of these like long range boats in San Diego and
Right.
stuff. Because first of all, it's like okay, they're throwing poppers and they're throwing surface irons on a 8, 9, 10 foot conventional rod with a
Right.
non-level line conventional reel, and you're like, okay, this is pretty gutsy, But then you get out there on the boat with them, and they're not just casting, like they're doing the equivalent of like pendulum casts and like some different
Right.
casts because they only have so much room, and you got to be aware of the guys around you, but you're trying to get maximum distance. It's a
Wow.
whole thing, man. I was really kind of taken by it. I was impressed. I mean, I can't do it very well. I couldn't throw half the distance some of these guys are throwing even when they hand me the same rod, but it's pretty cool to see.
It is. I got to witness it once here on the East Coast. I used to guide fishing trips for a living, and I took a
Right.
guy out from the West Coast who was a super
Okay.
high end, tackle guy, and he had
Yeah.
all his own gear, his own custom rods, and we
Yep.
took him out mahi and cobia fishing, and he brought a conventional
Yep.
with a Tatty 9, which is,
There you go. A
West Coast.
surface iron. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know what a Tatty 9 was.
Yeah, well, you
And
wouldn't. Nobody fishes
yeah,
that way except for them, right? I tell you, it's
right.
interesting. Like we got some rods built. I had some builders out there. One of the guys, Blake at Island Bait and Tackle, built me a couple of surf iron rods, and I had Darren Dohey and the guys at 310 Tackle Works build me a couple of live bait rods. And
Yeah,
after getting out there and using them, and it's like a 8 or 9 foot fiberglass or composite,
right.
surface iron or jig stick, built conventionally, like a deckhand kind of grip. You put like a 40 size Saltiga,
Yeah,
level wind on it, and I couldn't help but think that you could do pretty well, like for big jacks and sharks and stuff, bombing off the beach with that stuff, right? Because
absolutely.
those baits look killer in the water. The surface iron. If you've never seen one, it's
Yeah,
a weird looking thing. It looks like almost like in the old days when they would pour a plastic worm and it would not be injected; it'd just be poured from the open mold on the top. So one side's like
right.
flat, like the irons are kind of flat on
Exactly.
top, and then they
Yeah,
have this long extended diamond shape. But when you get one right, and there's this whole thing where guys go through all the racks and know what they're looking for the ones that are going to swim best and how to mess with them to get them. It's like a whole culture. It's fascinating. Sam from Island Tackle gave me this book. It's literally a hardcover book, this thick, large format, big book, nothing but surface irons. And it's like, it's really fascinating. But I mean, it's kind of like a jig, like if it looks like a minnow, everything they eat is going to eat it, right? So
right.
I don't think a
Right.
jack or a cobia or a kingfish, a king mackerel, I don't think they'd know that was supposed to be a yellowtail bait from the West Coast. It looks when you get one of those things moving through the water, and all you do is like sort of point at it and moderate retrieve, and
Right.
it's pretty seductive looking.
Yeah. It's deadly. I have a buddy here that fishes mangrove snapper constantly. We call him the Mango Man,
Yeah,
and he uses them. So when
that's a
when he
spooky
wants to,
fish. Yeah, that's another
yeah,
spooky fish. Yeah,
he'll fish it slow for mangroves, or if he gets tired of that, he'll high speed it for kings, and
yeah,
he catches everything on one jig.
yeah. That's crazy. That's mastery, right? Like that's when you've got it dialed, when you can like
Yeah,
catch anything on that. But jigs are one of those versatile lures that can do that, man.
yeah. You can
Yeah,
cast them far.
yeah,
They
yeah.
last all day.
Yeah. Well,
It's a
and it's
great
it's
jig.
almost with the surface irons, it's almost like a top water bite. Like a lot of times you see the fish come and you see the
Right.
fish strike it or you see the fish miss it or whatever. So that anytime you add that visual layer, it's always kind of amps up the excitement in my opinion. But
Yeah, it's super fun, right? That's why we do
yeah.
what we do.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, we covered so much ground. Thank you for taking me down the alligator path for a second. That's so cool. And if people are interested and they want to go on an alligator hunt with you, just go to the website, or how's the best way to book a hunt?
Yeah, I mean, so they can find it at getoutdoors.com,
Okay.
or our outfitting site is floridagatorhunting.com.
Okay. FloridaGatorHunting.com.
Yes, sir.
All right. And we'll post links to all this stuff. But oh wow,
Yep.
there's a lot of Florida Gators related to the University of Florida. This stop autocorrecting me and just put in FloridaGatorHunting.com.
Nice.
What else?
Nice.
So while I've got you, so we talked about the new products, the lockdown pace. We talked about the halftime. Any other new stuff you got that we want to tell rod builders about?
I'm trying to think. I mean, we just came out with a really cool 20-inch bed extension. So for those of you who have rod wrappers, 4-foot extensions have been available for forever.
Right.
But if you have a wrapper, it comes with 8 feet, and you may not have room for 12 feet.
Yeah.
So we just came out with a 20-inch extension that now allows you to wrap up to a 9-foot rod with full
On
support.
one base. Yeah.
So yeah, real simple, cheap, little easy add-on that makes life easier.
If you're building rods that length, though, you got to have it. Yeah.
Even a 7.5-foot rod, which is very common, can be difficult to wrap in an 8-foot wrapper because the chuck takes up so much space. So
right. You don't really have that full length to work with. Yeah.
Yeah. That was something different that we just came out with. We have our reamed and ready, our R&R kits.
Okay.
That we're releasing soon. So for first time builders especially, that's where my heart is. If we can teach more people to build and get them excited, get them past some of the complications of reaming or worrying about a fancy finish or one of your questions earlier or in an email was where do I see the big opportunity for rod building moving forward?
Yeah.
And I think it's helping people understand that just keep it simple.
Yeah.
And as suppliers and facilitators in the industry, if we can help them do that, that is the future. And there was an 11-year-old kid that came in the shop today, and he was actually buying a 20-inch extension. And I happened to come out of my office and I saw him. And I introduced myself and asked him how old he was. And I just had a great conversation with him. I saw he was buying a 20-inch base, and he asked me about Next Level because he's seen some of the Facebook posts. And he asked me how much is a 4-ounce thing at Next Level, and I said, for you, buddy, it's free. And those opportunities to get new people into building.
Right.
Priceless. It's just priceless. So we came out with these reamed and ready kits, and we're going to call them our R&R series, that are completely ready to go. There's no reaming necessary, no tape. You just put down your glue.
So you may sell some of those to me. Reaming is my least favorite part of the entire game.
It makes a mess. It's a little bit time consuming, whatever. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, well, I know some guys are going to be like, well, you might as well just buy a finished rod. Are you really building if you're already, not having a ream? It's like, listen, if we can make it easier to help grow the craft of rod building,
we should.
I'm going to try
everything we can do. That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And do it. We can do it however we want, but anything we can do to make it easier so people will just try it once. I mean,
right.
Who knows where I'd be today if I hadn't tried it? Who knows where you'd be today if your dad's buddy Robert hadn't given you the kit and you hadn't tried it, right? So that's literally the profound impact we can have on somebody just by having that conversation or giving them a kit or teaching them how to do it, man. I love it. It's the best. And you guys have actually great resources. If you go to getbit.com, getbitoutdoors.com, and you go, there's actually a header called Rod Building Made Easy. And you've got a ton of content you've accumulated over a long time. You've got a video vault that's got real specific how-to videos for specific steps. You've got a bunch of tutorials on how to do stuff from the like you're talking about, keep it simple, easy stuff, all the way up to more advanced techniques, right? And you as a builder are certainly capable of all that, but it's a great resource. So, maybe rod builders listening, they need it, or maybe it just makes it easier for them to get somebody else involved because they're able to use your resources. They don't have to come up with all of it on their own,
Right. Absolutely. And honestly, most of the videos are on there pretty old. So, but we're updating it regularly.
I think you look young now. You look even younger in those videos.
It's so crazy to look
those
back
are pre-kids. Those videos are pre-kids.
They are. The Facebook and YouTube and TikTok, they have more of the recent stuff. And, and I watched a lot of that stuff. And, It's amazing what you'll learn from other builders. And like I said, when I talked to Roger Cedars 20 years ago, I had been building, or maybe not 20, maybe it was 15 years ago. I had been building for 10 years
Right.
and always applying finish one way. And in
Right.
one conversation with Roger,
Changes
he changed
everything.
my life,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
applying finish.
I love it. The Japanese say everybody knows something, nobody knows everything, right? And it's
Yeah.
just like it's so cool. And sometimes you can get jaded and be like, "Ah, I've seen it all. I'm not going to learn anything
Right.
else." But like we hosted a anglers resource like mastering rod building event in Orange Beach or in
Sure.
Foley back in the spring. And like I've known Bill Batson for 30 years. I knew his dad when he was still around, when Bob was around. They've both been extremely good to me. I consider them friends. You know, obviously Bob may rest in peace. But I didn't know Keller very well. I got to know Eden for a
Okay.
while. Well, Keller came and actually we had held some spots for Bill, like, hey, we want somebody from Batson with pro staff or somebody to present on these topics. And I think Todd Dabrowski did weaving, and several people did things. It was great. But Keller got up and did some demonstrations. And dude, I learned like, you know, these little tips and tricks you never think
Right.
about. I'm like, how long have I
Yes.
been doing this? Literally 30 years. I bet I learned 5 things from him. And
Sure.
he's a younger guy like you. Like now he's been building a long time, right? But he's been around so many good builders, and it's just like that stuff excites me so much, right? But it
It
also will
does.
send me down the rabbit hole, and I'll go tonight and watch 2 hours of TikToks or Instagrams on rod building looking for the one tip, and I'm like, I've seen all this before. But it is
Right.
cool how you can learn something from everybody, right? And that's where the
Yeah.
sharing of information is so valuable. And I hate when, you know, I don't know whether you'd call it competitiveness or whether you'd call it people wanting to have credit or ego or what it is, but it gets in the way sometimes of information sharing. And it's awesome to see the way our community's growing and sort of expanding
Right.
and accelerating and all the wealth of information that's out there. I love it. So thank you very much for your part in doing that and for keeping it simple and for the tutorials and all that kind of stuff. I think it's great. And I got to tell you, we're gonna have to talk in a month or two because I'm getting ready to go on a halftime tear. I'm gonna be doing. I'm serious. I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff with halftime and just see what's what. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and you know the other thing that it's funny how you go in cycles and you kind of sometimes have to learn these lessons again. I've never been a fan of light build finish because I feel like I can manipulate
Yes.
via a little bit of heat. I can make fit regular build, high build, whatever you want to call it, do whatever I
Hmm.
need it to do. So do I really need something else? But I've gotten really into these BFS rods, right, in the
Okay.
last year and
Sure.
a half. And that led me down a little bit the path with these tiny little guides and tiny setups and light rods and small diameters and even using smaller than size A thread and doing some of this stuff. And I learned one of these counterintuitive sort of lessons where that thin finish that runs all over the place is actually more challenging on those little bitty guides than the thick stuff that stays where you put it,
Agree.
that you can control with heat, right? So it's like, okay,
Yes.
I just next level. I'm halftime some BFS guides, and it's like, okay, that was way easier. All right, I'm going away from it. Why did I ever try this thin stuff again? The social media got to me. Too many light builds got to me, and I had to try some. I'm going away.
Gotcha.
I'm going back to
Yeah.
my first love of original high build. But
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned that because when I sent Tom Kirkman some samples of Next Level before
yeah,
I launched it,
yeah,
I was like, Tom, I'm a little worried because, it's pretty thick of the regular stuff, the high build. And he sent me back a very simple response. I love Tom. He can
yeah.
say a lot in a few words,
Yes, he can.
and he said, Kevin, he goes, anybody can manipulate a high build finish to be whatever they want it to be.
I
He goes,
agree.
a light build is a one trick pony.
Yeah,
A high build, you can thin it, you can do whatever you want and make it what you want if you're willing to.
right.
If you want to get the end result to be what you want it to be, you can get it there.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why I was hesitant to release it until he said that. I was like, fine, let it rip.
No, I like it, and I'll tell you, I can get the halftime. Again, I'm running on relatively few number of coats and limited builds so far, but on my early returns, because that's one of the first things when I first, because I'm always using a little bit of heat in my process. I'm always worried how that's going to work,
Right.
and with it being clearly thicker, as soon as I'm taking it out with the syringes, as soon as I'm mixing it, it's like, okay, this is pretty high viscosity. Um, what was it going to be? Was it going to wet out good? Was it going to be a challenge with smaller stuff? It's not at all. It's fine. I was able to get my first coat, warm it gently, and remove everything that'll sag off of it once it's completely saturated, once no air beside the guide foot and all that kind of stuff. I had it just about thin enough. And people, when you see how thick this stuff starts, you wouldn't believe me, but I just barely not have the thread texture with size A thread, right? And that's a thin coat, dude. And that's with regular. So, I mean, if you need thinner than that, I don't know what to tell you. Try varnish. I don't know. Try permagloss. Enjoy your lung cancer. I don't know. I'm not sure what to tell you. Your paint huffing highs, but anyway,
I can smell it now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know. I've probably had more of that stuff than I need in this or any lifetime, but it is a very durable product. I'll give it that. So, well, man, thank you so much for joining me. This has been great. I really appreciate all you do for the industry, and glad we could get you on here to talk about the exciting new stuff, including my new current favorite girlfriend, Halftime. So, give it a try. I'm telling you, you may not. It's been an epiphany for me how much short cycle time has changed my ability to get stuff done rapidly when I'm in the shop. So I'm sort of all in on it. So you have to let me know when you come up with the next idea or whatever's coming next, and we'll have you back on to talk about that.
Yeah, I hope it's the color preserver. We're not settling. We got plenty of them out there. We're testing, and we're gonna find the right one.
Yeah. Well, I don't use a lot of it personally, but man, there still is a lot of demand for it out there. It just seems
crazy.
Like you can't quite. People are picky about it, right? Like it just seems like even maybe pickier than finish. I don't know. And then you add that people are putting color preserver often on 40 hours worth of thread work or something. It's like the stakes are high, It's got to be right. Yeah.
It does. No,
well, you have some good color preserver testers in Doc and Mark. You could hardly do better with those two guys. They'll test for you, and they'll tell you if it's good or not.
They're brutally honest. I love it.
Well, you need it though, right? Like that's the hardest part. You got to have honest feedback. People sometimes I think try to be nice, and it's like, if it's terrible and you're telling me you like it, you're not helping me. You're actually really hurting me, right? Because I think it's terrible. I'm just looking for someone else to confirm my opinion. But anyway.
Yes. Oh, man. Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Man. Glad we could make it happen. We'll have you on again. I appreciate your time very much. And again, you can learn more about Kevin and everything they're doing at FloridaGatorHunting.com and GetBitOutdoors.com. And Kevin, appreciate you and yours very much. Thanks for being on, and thanks everybody for tuning in and listening. And please remember to like, subscribe, and download wherever you get your podcast content. We'll see you next time on Mastering Your Outdoor.